The Senate Committee on Natural Resources and Agriculture is called to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Chair Shink,
Here.
Senator Cherry,
Here.
Senator Singh,
Present.
Senator Polanyi, Senator Daly,
Here.
Senator Victory, Senator Hoytinga.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have 6 members present. There is a quorum.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the committee minutes from June 3rd, 2025. So moved by Senator Cherry. Without objection, committee minutes are adopted. So next on the agenda, we're going to hear testimony from individuals and organizations who are affected by the proposed cuts to food banks and farmers. First up, we have from the Michigan Department of Education, Dr. Deanne Kelleher, Director of the Office of Nutrition Services. Welcome. Thank you for coming.
We'll make sure. All right. Good afternoon, Chair Shink, Majority Vice Chair Cherry, Minority Vice Chair Daly, and the rest of the members of the committee. Thank you very much for the invitation to speak here today. My name is Dr. Deanne Kelleher. I'm a registered dietitian and director of the Office of Nutrition Services with the Michigan Department of Education. The Office of Nutrition Services is responsible for nutrition security programs for Michiganders across the lifespan, from infants to older adults. Our office supports a broad range of federal and state nutrition programs and grants that include nutritious meals and snacks in child care and adult care settings, snacks and suppers in the after-school programs, school breakfasts and lunches, summer meals, farm-to-program grants connecting food from local farmers to schools, child care centers, food banks, and community action agencies. The office receives approximately $900 million in federal funds and about over $200 million in state funding for these programs. I'm here today to talk specifically about the federal funding termination of 2 awarded grants, the Local Food Purchasing Agreement 25, which I'll refer to as LFPA 25, and the Local Foods for Schools and Childcare, known as LFSCC. We were first made aware of a funding freeze to these grants in early February of this year. We spent a couple weeks attempting to get answers from USDA until in late February, we made a reimbursement claim and we were denied that reimbursement claim, with the only notification being that they were only taking claims prior to January 19th of 2025. We were then notified of the termination of our LFPA 25 and our LFSCC grants on March 7th, with those grants termination being made permanently on May 7th. To provide a little bit of context, our office was previously awarded grants from the USDA, known as LFPA and LFPA Plus, which is a local food purchasing agreement. And we also had a local foods for school grant as well. So they were previously running. So these LFPA 25 and LFSCC were continuations. These grants were used to support local, regional, and underserved producers, our farmers, to improve and maintain how farmers are able to connect their food to the community. The way the grants worked is that with the Michigan Department of Education, we receive funds from the United States Department of Agriculture, Agriculture Marketing Service, and in turn, our office partners with the local food banks and community organizations to help reach underserved communities with the goal of reducing hunger by improving food security. The flow of the money was on a reimbursement basis. Our partners purchased food from their local farmers to use in their program, and the partners submitted invoices then to our office for the reimbursement, and then we would then ask for the reimbursement requests from the federal government to draw down our funds to help reimburse our partners and get our local food to those in need. The LFPA and LFSCC grants are all multi-year grants. Michigan, with the previous iteration, the LFPA and LFPA Plus, had a little over $11 million previously from those, but the LFPA 25 and the LFSCC grants, we were awarded $30 million, $12 million for the LFPA 25 and $18 million for our LFSCC, those going to schools and child care centers. These were going to be used to grow these programs. They are highly successful, and that was going to run from 2025 until 2028. These programs were vital for our Michigan citizens. They supported Michigan agriculture, specifically our small local farmers, by connecting them, by getting their wholesome products to those Michiganders most in need, through the programs that are operated by organizations, tribal organizations, food banks, community action agencies, regional food collectives, and mobile pantry programs. There are numerous success stories from the first 2 years of these grants from all over Michigan, with our state serving as a model across the United States. After the termination of the LFPA 25 grant, the USDA did offer states an opportunity for a no-cost extension for the remaining funds that we had for LFPA and LFPA Plus that would run through December of 2026. Due to Michigan's shortened growing season, we definitely took advantage of this opportunity to allow our partners to leave LFPA and LFPA Plus grant on their own terms versus an abrupt shutdown. These were strong, successful programs that were quickly able to create a distribution network to help our Michigan farmers to connect to new organizations to purchase their products. The no-cost extension has been critical to help those 515 farmers that were participating in LFPA, which would have been participating in LFPA 25 if it was continued. This helps them with their remaining growing seasons and being able to connect farmers to see, we're able to use some of our connections to see, can you get to our state-funded 10 cents a meal program? So we're making those connections with our farmers so they still have a distribution network. The termination of LFPA 25 and LFSCC has created a $30 million void for getting healthy, minimally processed foods into Michigan homes, schools, and childcare centers, not to mention leaving our farmers without a network to sell their products to. This means $30 million less in sales for our Michigan farmers, $30 million less in value of food to our food system in schools, childcare centers, food banks, local food councils, and hubs. The bigger picture is that these nutrient-rich foods will not be in programs serving those that most need it. It's a lot of nutrition that could have been bettering the health of our Michigan children and families. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share about the grants.
Thank you. Senator Singh?
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Chair. The last time we had an opportunity to talk, you were helping me understand the fact that some of the food banks and schools had already purchased, and then they were obviously asking for the reimbursement. I mean, obviously, you were asking for the reimbursement. Mm-hmm. Did they ever get reimbursed, or did those food banks and school districts and other child care facilities, did they all sort of not receive their money for that last purchase that they did?
We were able to get funds after the funds. So the funds were unfrozen. So funds ended up being unfrozen, but and anybody who had previous invoices with us, once they unfroze those funds and they gave us, and we have that no-cost extension, we were able to reimburse them.
So that group of people at least were kept whole. But now going
Correct.
forward, when you're talking about the $30 million worth of activity, our farmers are losing out, our community food banks and community care people are all losing out on that going forward.
That's a lot of food not going to hungry people.
Okay. Thank you for your clarification. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Senator Polhanke?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Michigan House Republicans unveiled their school aid budget this morning, and it zeroed out any earmark for the wildly popular free school meals program in our schools. How many kids in Michigan rely on school meals for breakfast and lunch every 5 days a week during the school year?
Yes. So just as you had said, it is a wildly successful program. When we look at our average intake of how many participation, shall we say, the participation daily, we're about 460,000 breakfasts served every day, and almost 900,000 lunches are served every day.
And, okay, I'm just writing this down. So what part of the school meals program is federally funded?
Sure. When we look at the Michigan model, It's approximately 75% federally funded and 25% state funded for us to have the universal free meals. That is the free breakfast and free lunch for our public K-12.
So if you eliminate the 25% from the state, that leaves the 75% from the federal. Could we do 460,000 breakfasts and 900,000 lunches with 75% of the money?
That would take more analysis. We would have to really look at that. I mean, that's a big cut. So we would have to be able to be looking at, because it's based on free, reduced, and paid. So we would have to look to see what it could be done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. A report released in January by Hunger Free America found that 1.3 million Michigan residents experienced food insecurity between 2021 and 2023. Can you explain how child nutrition programs help to combat that trend?
Sure. So the programs that we have, food insecurity impacts households with children more than when we look at the percentage of total households. It's usually about 5% higher. So we know that those households with children are more impacted by food insecurity. Our programs are year-round. So we have, and we go from infancy all the way through, obviously 12th grade, when we look at our child nutrition programs. So we have child and adult care food programs. So it's in our child care centers. It's a reimbursement basis. We have school meals, school lunches. And then we have our whole host of summer programs that are going on right now. Our Meet Up and Eat Up, the summer food service, our Meals to Go, which is the rural Meals to Go program, or rural non-congregate, and our summer EBT that we partner with Department of Health and Human Services. So we're able to cover the entire year to help with food security. We don't want kids to go hungry, no matter what time of year it is.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Colleagues, any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we are going to go back to an earlier place in our agenda. So, whoopsies. Okay, so we are going to take up Senate Bill 223. We heard testimony on this bill at our last meeting. Are there any follow-up questions from members or any additional testimony? Okay, then I will entertain a motion to report SB 223 to the floor with the recommendation that the bill pass. So moved by Senator Paul-Hankey. Will the clerk please call the question?
Chair Schenk.
Yes.
Senator Cherry.
Yes.
Senator Singh.
Yes.
Senator Paul-Hankey.
Yes.
Senator Daly.
No.
Senator Victory.
No.
Senator Hoytinga. Madam Chair, there are 4 yeas, 3 nays. The bill is reported.
Thank you. Next on the agenda are Senate Bills 235 and 236. We heard testimony on these bills at our previous meeting, and we have substitutes to both of the bills offered by Senator Singh. Senator, would you please explain what the substitutes do?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We got a few edits from our friends at Treasury. Since we heard this issue last, they do a few minor things. The first is, the first change would modify the program to start instead of, would start January 1st, 2026 versus 2025 as we had introduced it. The second change is for clarification language that ensures a taxpayer may only claim one credit for the amount listed in the certificate issued by Eagle. And then we wanted to just make sure that that language was tight as we took a look at the reintroduction of those bills. The third one is to further align with Senator Bellino's bill in this package to ensure that the taxpayer credit has to provide evidence that the SAF is reducing the life cycle greenhouse gas emissions by above 50%. So those are the changes. Again, I want to thank our colleagues over in Treasury for continuing to work with us to refine this language. And those are the changes, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Singh. Are there any questions from members? I'll entertain a motion to adopt the S1 version of Senate Bill 235. So moved by Senator Singh. Will the clerk please call the question?
Chair Schenk?
Yes.
Senator Cherry?
Yes.
Senator Singh?
Yes.
Senator Polanki?
Yes.
Senator Daly?
Yes.
Senator Victory?
Yes.
Senator Hoytinga? Madam Chair, there are 7 yeas, 0 nays. The substitute is adopted.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the S1 version of Senate Bill 236. So moved by Senator Singh. Will the clerk please call the question?
Chair Schenk?
Yes.
Senator Cherry?
Yes.
Senator Singh?
Yes.
Senator Polanki?
Yes.
Senator Daly?
Yes.
Senator Victory?
Yes.
Senator Hoytinga? Madam Chair, there are 7 yeas, 0 nays. The substitute is adopted.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to report the S1 version of Senate Bill 235 to the floor with the recommendation that the bill pass. So moved by Senator Cherry. Will the clerk please call the question?
Chair Schenk?
Yes.
Senator Cherry?
Yes.
Senator Singh?
Yes.
Senator Polanki?
Yes.
Senator Daly?
Yes.
Senator Victory?
Yes.
Senator Hoytinga?
Yes.
Madam Chair, there are 7 yeas, 0 nays. The bill is reported.
Thank you. I should have asked you to read in the cards ahead of the vote, but if you could do that now, I would most appreciate it.
Madam Chair, Mike Alimo of Michigan Chamber does not wish to speak but supports Senate Bills 235 and 236. And Jane McCurry with Clean Fuels of Michigan does not wish to speak and supports Senate Bills 235 and 236.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to report the S1 version of Senate Bill 236 to the floor with a recommendation that the bill pass. So moved by Senator Singh. Will the clerk please call the question?
Chair Schenk?
Yes.
Senator Cherry?
Yes.
Senator Singh?
Yes.
Senator Polanki?
Yes.
Senator Daly?
Yes.
Senator Victory?
Yes.
Senator Hoytinga?
Yes.
Madam Chair, there are 7 yeas, 0 nays. The bill is reported.
Thank you very much. So now we'll go back to testimony from individuals and organizations affected by the proposed cuts to food banks and farmers. Next, I ask Dr. Quentin Tyler, Director of the MSU Extension. Come on. Thank you so much, Dr. Tyler.
Yes, good afternoon, members of the Michigan Senate Natural Resources Ag Committee. My name is Dr. Quentin Tyler, and I am the Director of Michigan State University Extension. And I also have Aaron Moore, who's the Associate Director at the Health and Nutrition Institute, which is a part of Michigan State University Extension. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony in support of the Michigan State University Extension Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program Education Program. For more than 30 years, MSU Extension has delivered SNAP education programming to children, families, and adults in every corner of the state, from Keenawah to Kalamazoo. This program is a cornerstone of nutrition education and public health support across our state, and it has a proven track record of changing people's lives when it comes to positive changes and making healthy food choices, increasing physical activity, and improving food resource management. We have a dedicated team of over 120 individuals who deliver SNAP education to tens of thousands of Michiganders every year, from early childhood to seniors across both urban and rural communities. SNAP education is the only nutrition education program and obesity prevention program that reaches all life stages and ages. I'd like to draw your attention to the impact report for fiscal year 24 data that showcases our reach and results. While we won't go through every measurement, we do want to call attention to some notable outcomes. Particularly after participating in our program, 40% of adults report eating more fruit and vegetables each day. Over 40% of adults also increase the amount of moderate physical activity they get. SNAP education programming is also truly statewide in scope, as we program in all 83 counties in the state. In 2024, MSU Extension reached 115,483 people through nutrition and physical activity promotion and education, and also worked with over 1,000 partners and 200 coalitions. Through SNAP education, we also help reshape where people live, work, and play to make healthy choices easier, more accessible, and affordable. One example of this work is with Patriot Place in Otsego County. Patriot Place provides transitional housing for male veterans experiencing homelessness, helping them gain the skills and resources needed for independent living. To support this mission, Patriot Place partnered with MSU Extension, SNAP Ed, to upgrade and improve that shared kitchen space. These improvements make it easier for veterans to cook for themselves, an essential step toward achieving self-sufficiency. But SNAP education isn't just about teaching nutrition. It's about building self-reliance, strengthening families, and creating healthier communities across Michigan. One key part of this program is helping people stretch their food dollars further, making better choices for their kids and taking charge of their health. For example, at the start of a SNAP education class in Kent County, a participant shared concerns about high blood pressure and the risk for type 2 diabetes. During the session, an MSU Extension instructor demonstrated how low-sodium herb and spice blend motivated the participant to committed to drinking more water and reducing salt. By next week, she had fully adopted the herb blend, cut back on salt, and increased her water intake and physical activity. At her follow-up appointment, her blood pressure was under control for the first time in years, and her blood sugar had improved. Her doctor was equally impressed that he retested her high levels and discussed reducing the frequency of her visits as her progress continued. MSU Extension SNAP education program also plays a critical role in supporting food access and nutrition education through other collaborative efforts like Senior Project Fresh, which provides seniors access to locally grown fruits and vegetables through farmers markets and roadside stands. WIC Produce Connections does the same for women, infant, and children, and Prescription Health allows healthcare providers to prescribe local fruits and vegetables as strategy for patients to improve nutrition and manage chronic health. And it goes with the saying, food is thy medicine. MSU's SNAP education program has also partnered with the Michigan Department of Education to support the 10 cents a meal Michigan Kids and Farm Initiative, which aims to improve the daily nutrition and eating habits of school-aged children while investing in Michigan's agricultural economy in counties such as Genesee, Wayne, Ottawa, Roscommon, and Presque. Another key example of the farm-to-institution programming is the Growing Healthy Eaters program, developed in partnership with the Allen Foundation. This farm-to-early childhood education initiative helps family child care providers serve more fruits and vegetables while teaching children about local agriculture. In 2024, over 125 providers, 21 farmers across 32 counties like Saginaw, Genesee, and Ingham participated. You can see this full success story, as well as many others, on a site listed on the slide. Yet another example is an MSU Extension partnership with the Bureau of Aging, Community Living, and supports for the Senior Project Fresh program. We are the lead agency in 16 counties. This program was responsible for over $850,000 in total sales in fiscal years 21, 22, and 23. In fiscal year 25, MSU Extension, SNAP Ed, is recruiting and assisting farmers to become authorized vendors for Senior Project Fresh and WIC Produce Connection e-solution platforms. SNAP education efforts are not limited to direct engagement. Through social marketing outreach and local partnerships, MSU Extension amplifies the impact of its work. These indirect strategies ensure that healthy messages reach far beyond the classroom or a workshop. This includes a partnership with the Office of Disease Prevention and Health Promotion to promote the Move Your Way campaign, which advocates for meeting the physical activity guidelines for Americans in 28 counties, focused on the Northwest region of the state, which the slide indicates. This campaign produced over 19.7 million impressions, 15,000 clicks through targeted ads and geofencing. We also saw nearly a 5,000% increase in views and 750% increase in user engagement time compared to previous years. The intersection of health, education, and agriculture is a powerful force for change, and SNAP education sits at the center of it. By promoting food literacy, supporting Michigan-grown produce, and expanding access to healthy, local foods, SNAP education strengthens both communities and the local food system. It helps people take charge of their health, supports Michigan's farmers, and delivers lasting benefits to children, families, and schools across the state, offering practical, proven solutions with real impact. MSU Extension's statewide presence and comprehensive, inclusive approach makes it a critical and valuable resource for our state. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Polanki.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Would any federal budget cuts affect all the good stuff you're doing here with SNAP Ed?
It would dramatically.
Could you just expand on that?
So we have, in terms of employees in the SNAP, 120 people. So all those folks are on federal funds.
The House budget passed with a total elimination of SNAP education,
The U.S. House.
the U.S. House budget.
And, wait, I'm writing this down. So total elimination, so all those 120 people, are those full-time jobs that they have?
We have 108 people that are full-time employed on the SNAP education grant, and the rest, the 12 or 18 remaining are part-time employed on that grant.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Next, from the Michigan Sustainable Business Forum, we have Daniel Schoonmaker, Executive Director, Scott Rumsa, Executive Director of Community Action House from Ottawa County, and Onelia Gronstall, Executive Director of Lakeshore Food Club in Ludington. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Chair Schenk and Vice Chair Cherry and the committee for having us today. My name is Daniel Schoonmaker. I'm the Executive Director of the Michigan Sustainable Business Forum. Our organization works with business institutions across Michigan to advance climate leadership, social justice, and the creation of a circular economy. Here today are two of our members who have been materially and substantially impacted by increase in grocery prices and disruptions in federal funding, as well as increased demand for donated food. They're going to speak to specific impacts to funding cuts, as well as the impacts on the farmers that they work with to source these products. My organization worked with Community Action House and Lakeshore Food Club to develop on behalf of the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes Energy, the Michigan Food Waste Roadmap last year, which is planned for the state to reduce food loss and waste by half to achieve the goals set forth in the Michigan Healthy Climate Plan, which, if accomplished, would preserve $1 billion of economic value and decrease landfill receipts by 600 to 800 tons per year. Though our hope is that the efforts that this committee is working for will provide voice to our members for the federal funds that they have lost to be fully restored, and these programs should be prioritized. We think it is a time to highlight that there are opportunities and perhaps low-hanging fruit opportunities for the state to adopt practices that have worked to increase the donation of food in its peer states, such as the implementation of a state tax credit for the donation of food or the transportation of donated food, the legislation that would clarify date label standards, and interagency collaboration between the Departments of Agriculture and Rural Development, Health and Human Services, and Environment's Great Lakes and Energy. Our research has shown, although this is a gross oversimplification, there is enough wasted food in Michigan, approximately $4.38 billion meals to, and again, this is an oversimplification, to feed every hungry person in Michigan. The 1.3 million people, as estimated by the Michigan Food Security Council during the same period that we conducted our research. And we believe that diverting just an additional 5% of that material would substantially increase and perhaps double the amount of donated food currently in the charitable food system. And hope that as these conversations go on, we can consider investments and improved policy of the state to improve that activity. With that, I would like to turn over my time to my colleague, Scott Rumsa, CEO of Community Action House.
Chair, members of the committee, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you today. I'm here representing Community Action House, a nonprofit based in Holland that directly serves people in Allegan and Ottawa counties. I speak not only as a nonprofit leader, but also on behalf of our neighbors, families, seniors, and children who are facing growing hardship and concern. Our largest program is called the Food Club and Opportunity Hub. It's a nationally recognized model developed right here in Michigan that provides low-income households with dignified access to healthy food. Rooted in principles of dignity, participation, and choice, Food Club is a membership-based model that incentivizes the selection of healthy food in a convenient grocery store-style environment. Integrated with our on-site Opportunity Hub, it connects members not only to quality, healthy food, but also to on-site supportive services, from financial coaching to housing resources to workforce programming that also address some of the root causes of hunger. Last year in our community, nearly 12,000 different neighbors needed our Food Club to help keep their fridges filled and their families fed. But the system we and many of our partners work within is under significant challenge and strain. This April, our friends and partners at Feeding America West Michigan were notified that they would not receive their expected and usual quarterly supply of food from the Emergency Food Assistance Program, known as TFAP. TFAP was a cornerstone of our own food supply out on the lakeshore, as it is for pantries throughout our state. With no clear signal that those deliveries and others like them will resume, our organization is now projecting an added $150,000 in increased annual cost just to fill those gaps using higher cost sources. Further, as we examine potential SNAP cuts that are being considered, those may send even more families to food pantries like ours who are already grappling with food supply instability. We will work with our community to find ways to remain resilient, but we're also concerned about many of our partners, smaller food pantries, those without storage or reserves, who may be forced to scale back or close their doors entirely. With these challenges, we ourselves are being forced to pivot, requesting more financial support from community partners to fill the gaps we have for the coming year, while we also invest in the long term, growing our own food rescue and local food partnerships capacity to continue covering needs in our community in the future. That means we're relying ever more heavily on our own Lakeshore Food Rescue Program, which recovers fresh, nutritious food from local retailers and farms that would otherwise go to waste out on the lakeshore. This rapidly growing program expects to rescue and redirect nearly 5 million pounds of food this year, keeping our shelves stocked with fresh food, while also supporting over 65 different food access sites across our region of service. State support right now is helping us grow that work in a critical time. One example is through Eagle's Organics Infrastructure Grant, where this week we're beginning to further expand our cold storage and food rescue infrastructure. Another is a recent $25,000 Food Hubs and Farm Stops grant from MDARD, which is allowing in this season for us to purchase more food directly from local farmers. And I'd like to name the fact that we're now very recently able to access the invaluable Michigan Agricultural Surplus System, MASS, program through our partners at Feeding America West Michigan, which has been a breakthrough for our lakeshore community. With these and other tools working in tandem with a compassionate community, collaborative food producers and retailers, and a government committed to common sense solutions, we can all do more. And in this season, we all need to do more. Because at our collective best, we're not just distributing food. We're creating systems that sustain dignity, nutrition, and opportunity. So as you each consider how to support resilient local food systems, I urge you to consider efforts to expand incentives for food rescue and farm surplus programs so that no good food goes to waste while people go hungry. To consider funding infrastructure for frontline food hubs like ours, to expand food storage and rescue so more communities are able to directly take part in this system throughout our state, and to ensure that MASS dollars are sustained and even considered expanded so that they can reach local frontline organizations and effectively cover every corner of our state. On the Lakeshore, we're proud of what our community's built, but we cannot replace the scale and impact of federal food support on our own. With your partnership, we can build a stronger, more dignified food system that works for all Michiganders. I want to thank you each for your time and your service to our state.
Thank you. Colleagues, do you have questions?
We actually have one more speaker via Zoom.
Okay. I have questions before you go away.
Okay.
Okay, if you can help them. Can you help them get on? Yeah, I had announced them. Onelia Grunstall.
Onelia, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
You can hear you now.
Wonderful. Madam Chair and members of the committee, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Amelia Gronstal, and I am the Executive Director of Lakeshore Food Club, a nonprofit serving over 3,000 low-income households, representing nearly 8,000 neighbors in rural Mason County. 1 in 4 households in our county carries a Lakeshore Food Club membership card. And like our friends at Community Action House, we operate a nonprofit grocery store, open 6 days a week, providing full choice and dignified access to healthy food. Our work is grounded in a simple truth. Food access is not charity. It is dignity, and it is a human right. Nearly 85% of our members are either working adults or retired seniors, doing their part, yet still falling short in a rural economy where wages haven't kept up with inflation and assistance is shrinking. Last year, our food budget alone totaled $500,000, not including in-kind donations and food rescue efforts. Nearly half of that was offset by LFPA funding, allowing us to purchase Michigan-grown food from over 15 local farmers and producers each week. This year, as you heard earlier, that funding was cut. The funding was promised to us under the EAT Act, and then in February, we were told that this kind of funding would be ceasing through 2028. Our farmers that we work with planned for this market, and that decision left our organization to fill a $250,000 budget cut and pushed our food budget to nearly $600,000 in 2025. We are still buying local because our values say that when we fundraise, we reinvest our local food economy, but we cannot uphold this system alone. We hear often that nonprofits and donors will step in and fill the gap, but let me be clear. Philanthropy cannot absorb $250,000 funding loss on top of the current spikes in food prices in a rural community. We are seeing greater need in our community now than at the height of the pandemic. And each time SNAP benefits are cut or restructured, our membership soars because families are left with nowhere else to go. We are proud to do this work. But nonprofits alone cannot and should not be expected to carry the burden of a broken federal pipeline. Meanwhile, USDA commodity cuts, especially TFAP, have made this difficult situation even worse. Where we once paid 16 cents per pound for shelf-stable staples through Feeding America West Michigan, we are now paying 89 cents per can on the wholesale market, a 500% increase on the food we distribute every week. And in proposed SNAP benefit cuts, and the system isn't just strained, but it's now teetering on collapse. We're building the system rural Michigan needs, but we cannot do it alone. We are not expanding for growth's sake. We're expanding because the need demands it. Thanks to a recent $50,000 MDARD grant, we are creating a regional food hub in Oceana County. It will serve our programming and our food clubs. It will support every rural pantry in Mason, Oceana, and Lake counties. And it will aggregate and distribute food through our growing food hub network along the lakeshore. We very recently gained access to Michigan Agricultural Surplus System, or MASS funding, through our partners at Feeding America West Michigan. This is an essential tool that must remain well-funded and responsive to local frontline agencies. We understand that this committee does not control federal food policy, but you do control whether Michigan has the tools to respond when that policy fails. We respectfully ask you to fully fund MASS and to ensure direct access to local frontline agencies, to invest in rural food hubs, cold storage, and shared distribution systems, especially in the rural areas, to expand procurement incentives to keep Michigan-grown food on Michigan dinner tables, to expand food rescue and surplus programs, because in Michigan, no good food should go to waste, and support innovative, dignity-based models like food clubs, which offer efficient, sustainable, and community-empowered solutions. It's time to build the system that Michigan deserves. We are carrying the weight of a broken federal promise, rising costs, and rising need. We're doing more than we ever thought possible, and still it is not enough. This is not a funding gap, it's a system failure, and it is not sustainable for small nonprofits, rural farmers, or the communities that we serve. We are not asking for charity. We're asking for a partnership, because when good food is grown here, it should feed people here. Because when people work hard and age with dignity, they should have food on their tables. And because food access is not a line item, it is a lifeline. Let's build the food system Michigan deserves. Local, resilient, rooted in dignity. A system that feeds communities, sustains farms, and brings Michiganders together around the table. Thank you so much for your leadership, and more importantly, thank you for standing with us.
Thank you. Colleagues, any questions? Okay, after. Oh, Senator Victory.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I apologize for my tardiness to the committee, so thank you for working around that. It's a question for Scott. In your testimony, you highlight a couple areas for infrastructure, because one of my concerns is, ever back to my days in the House too, we have a lot of food available, but when it comes to the logistics and the infrastructure is beating that component. Now, you highlight, I think, two in your testimony. Were those state-funded items? And so what are the pools of money or tools that we have available at the state level for infrastructure, like cold chain components and warehousing area? And then also, is there anything available in the federal? Because, again, sometimes we would put the cart before the horse, or the cart, those components. I always feel if you have to have the infrastructure before you get the product.
Thank you, Senator Victory. Yes, I would love to speak to that. And over our recent past as an organization on the Lakeshore, I can speak to the importance of us using both community philanthropy as well as key state resources and other funding to build up our infrastructure to be able to receive, sort, and then ship out growing quantities of food. As one example of that, just over 6 years ago, we were able to rescue about 200,000 pounds of food annually across our two counties. This year, we may break 5 million pounds of food that would otherwise go to waste, and I will note that that is in close partnership with our friends at Feeding America West Michigan, as well as others through our region. The reason we can do that is through strategic investments annually in building up our cold chain. So our cooling capacity, our freezing capacity, and our logistics fleet of refrigerated trucks. We've been able to do that through a couple of key state resources recently, and those are both through EAGLE and MDARD. So the EAGLE is Organics Infrastructure Grant, and the name of the MDARD grant, there's one that I didn't name that we actually have an outstanding request to right now, has also been one that we've used on our team, but I can send that later. I apologize that I don't recall it right now. But I would note that in my remarks, is a really important thing to make sure that it remains accessible, because building up that capacity ends up, I believe, not to speak for my friend Ken, a win for both partners, where Feeding America and us are able to work in tandem to rescue even more. And that is also, I believe, what my colleague Anelia is speaking to in terms of the farm hub or the food hub operation that she is continuing to expand in her region of the state.
Yeah. If I may, Senator, the MDARD has a portfolio of market improvement grants that we can provide a list of. The Organics Infrastructure Grant that Scott's referenced is funded by the Renew Michigan Fund that EAGLE manages. The organics infrastructure is awarded at its discretion each year. It is not always awarded at a consistent amount, and sometimes the grant programs change each year, and has only recently been made available in material amounts to organizations like Community Action House. But this past year did make several awards to food rescues, including Metro Food Rescue in the Detroit area. Also, the Health and Human Services has a discretionary fund as well. They did make a $100,000 investment to Metro Food Rescue that was, I believe, out of their general fund.
think a couple of things I want to highlight. Would you say that many of your clients work and pay taxes?
Yes, we very much, like my colleague Onelia shared, the majority of our guests have full-time or regular income sources.
Thank you. And what percentage of your customers have SNAP benefits, would you say?
I do not have that number, but I believe the majority do qualify, and we have staff on site that are MI Bridges certified, and we work to make sure that everybody that is eligible is enrolling correctly in that program, and also maximizing their benefits through Double Up Food Buck programs locally.
Thank you. And I hear you being very positive and talking about in a way that you're working to overcome the cuts at the federal level and anticipated cuts that may also be coming along. And I guess one word of caution I want to say, and I'll preface this by saying I very much support circular food economy. I very much support no waste. I'm from Washtenaw County, where we've been doing an amazing job of collecting excess food from around the county and making sure it gets into the hands of people who will be eating it. A lot of that ends up being federally funded, even if it's through, and I don't know exactly how the grants you're talking about are funded, even if it's through a state grant, a lot of those grants have federal money as their origins. That's money that our taxpayers, including some of your clients, have paid to the federal government, and is supposed to come back to meet our needs. And over 40% of our budget is federal dollars, and we still don't know what the federal government will or won't cut. And so some of those grants that you're talking about that are helping you do that amazing work may also be at risk, unfortunately. So just wanted to make sure that was out there. Thank you so much for coming today and talking about this. Colleagues, any other questions? All right, we'll move on to the next one. Thank you again. Food Bank Council of Michigan. Anna Almanza, Director of Public Policy and Governmental Relations for the Food Bank Council. Kenneth Estelle, Feeding America of West Michigan, President and CEO. Gerald Bryson, Gleaners Community Food Bank of Southeast Michigan, President and CEO. And Michigan, no, I think, okay, that's next. And for anyone whose name I've butchered, I sincerely apologize.
And Agriculture. I'm Anna Almanza, Director of Public Policy and Government Relations for the Food Bank Council of Michigan, and we serve as the state association for the 7 regional Feeding America food banks that work collectively with a network of over 2,800 local agencies across the state, some of which you've heard from earlier today. I'm joined today by 2 of our member food banks that I'm glad to have an opportunity to provide some of that local perspective. And we appreciate the opportunity to speak today regarding the recent and proposed cuts to USDA food programs that provide direct support to the Michigan Food Bank Network, as well as to food banks across the country. As the state's largest anti-hunger network, the Food Bank Council of Michigan's mission is to create a food secure state through advocacy, resource management, and collaboration amongst stakeholders and Michigan's Unified Food Bank Network. Many people across the state struggle to meet their basic needs, which increases their risk for food insecurity. Every person deserves access to fresh, nutritious food to thrive, yet in Michigan, 1.4 million residents, which is 1 in 7 people, including 1 in 6 children, may not know where their next meal is coming from. Food banks are on the front lines, working tirelessly each day to address hunger and food insecurity in the communities they serve. In 2024, the Michigan Food Bank Network distributed 196 million pounds of food, providing an equivalent of 164 million meals to those in need across our state. Since early 2025, the Michigan Food Bank Network has been challenged with funding and supply chain disruptions, particularly tied to programs funded through the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Commodity Credit Corporation, or CCC. 2 programs impacted include the Local Food Purchase Assistance Cooperative Agreement Program, or what we also refer to as LFPA, a USDA program supporting local farmers and food distribution to underserved communities, as well as the Emergency Food Assistance Program, or what we refer to as TFAP, a USDA food distribution program that provides crucial resources of nutritious food to food banks and local agencies across the country. The first cut to USDA programs that Food Bank saw was the termination of LFPA 25, which you heard MDE speak a bit about earlier. USDA had previously promised and made an announcement to Michigan that we would receive $11.7 million in funding for LFPA 25. However, prior to those formal agreements being able to be put in place to fund those agencies, LFPA 25 was terminated by USDA without notice, despite the bipartisan support for the local food infrastructure it provided. While Michigan has a long history in leading efforts nationally in creating farm-to-food bank partnerships, LFPA was a program that further strengthened the local farm economies by supporting purchases from Michigan growers and small producers. The loss of LFPA 25 limits local food supply chains, and it undermines those farm-to-family systems designed to work outside traditional channels. The next disruption experienced by the Michigan Food Bank Network was the cancellation of the TFAP bonus CCC food orders. TFAP distributes bonus foods purchased by USDA to support agricultural markets, providing food banks with high-quality, nutritious, and often fresh food. After a couple of months of uncertainty and no program updates, USDA canceled $4.3 million worth of food for the Michigan Food Bank Network, which is approximately 2.5 million pounds of food. The orders canceled included high-demand lean protein and shelf-stable items such as poultry, pork, dairy, eggs, dried fruits, and canned vegetables. These were orders counted on by the food banks and planned for well in advance, and then canceled by USDA with very little notice. The canceled orders were scheduled to be delivered between April and August of this year, lending to an unexpected acute 3-month food gap in which those critical food resources were lacking for our Michigan Food Bank Network. In May 2025, USDA announced that some food resources would be alternatively offered through TFAP bonus Section 32 funding. However, this is not a full replacement, as funding provided nationally is $172 million less than what was expected through TFAP bonus CCC funding. And there's also a noticeable shift in the types of products that are available, with significantly less protein items being offered. That was previously ordered and expected from our food banks. There also remains a delay in when the food resources will be available to be distributed to the communities the food banks serve, with orders expected to be delivered within the latter half of the year between June and December 2025. Shifting a bit from cuts already impacting the food banks, thinking about some proposed cuts have been hearing regarding the fiscal year 2026 budget discussions, particularly involving a program called the Commodity Supplemental Food Program. CSFP is a USDA food distribution program that is focused on serving seniors and individuals with disabilities specifically. CSFP fills critical nutritional gaps for seniors with limited resources that often can't afford fresh or fortified food. Over 66,000 Michigan seniors rely on CSFP food boxes every month, including 7,000 of those directly served by the Michigan Food Bank Network. The President's fiscal year 2026 discretionary budget request proposes to eliminate CSFP entirely, while in contrast, the House Appropriations Agriculture Subcommittee proposes to continue to fund CSFP at the current funding levels. Out of great concern, the Food Bank Council of Michigan continues to monitor the issue very closely. As we gather today to discuss the importance of food assistance programs' role in supporting Michigan food banks and farmers, I must mention the vital importance of a state-funded program that does just that, the Michigan Agricultural Surplus System. MASS allows the Michigan Food Bank Network to purchase directly from our Michigan farmers, supplying food banks with consistent and reliable sources of produce, dairy, protein, and increasing access to an abundance of nutritious food for those in need. In fiscal year 24, through MASS, the Michigan Food Banks purchased nearly 28 million pounds of produce, dairy, meat, and eggs from 55 Michigan farmers across the state, providing over 23 million meals to Michigan families. In Michigan, food banks and farmers are proud to work closely together to feed those in need across our state. And with all of the uncertainty with the federal food assistance programs we are experiencing, MASS has become that much more of a critical resource for Michigan food banks to work directly with our Michigan farmers through shortened supply chain to maintain a consistent source of reliable access to nutritious foods to the communities we serve. When it comes to food insecurity and access gaps, no one program or entity can solve this alone. Basic need programs work collectively to ensure there are resources available for those most in need, and cutting programs that provide access to food as well as healthcare will significantly increase food insecurity as families will have to be forced to make hard choices between affording food and healthcare. While families continue to grapple with rising costs, cutting vital food assistance programs will negatively impact working families and disproportionately impact children, seniors, and individuals with disabilities. Beyond the household impacts, cuts to food assistance program will also impact the local and agricultural economy, as the federal nutrition programs also support Michigan farmers and retailers. Food banks will experience increased demand to source more food while grappling with higher prices and fewer resources themselves. When resources are constrained, food banks will have to make difficult decisions, where they can serve and how much. The Michigan Food Bank Network does not expect any one program to address the issue of food insecurity on its own. It takes a blend of support from federal and state programs, as well as donations, philanthropy, and food rescue efforts. Food banks already assume costs of their own to operate these federal nutrition programs, and further limiting funding available through these programs, again, will put further strain on their ability to operate these programs and serve their communities. There is no quick to fill the significant gaps in resources that would be lost for both households and food banks when food assistance programs experience cuts. Cuts to food assistance will hurt people facing hunger in every district, particularly in rural communities, limiting access to basic needs. The Food Bank Council of Michigan is deeply concerned with any proposals that would further increase hardship for Michiganders facing hunger. Thank you for your time and attention today on such a critical issue. And with that, I will pass it over to my colleague, Ken.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, thank you for having me here today and share some information with you. My name is Kenneth Estelle. I am the president and CEO of Feeding America West Michigan. We're a private Michigan nonprofit organization and a member of the Feeding America network of food banks. Our food bank provides over 27 million meals annually to those in need throughout 40 counties of Michigan's 83, including the west side of the Lower Peninsula and all of the Upper Peninsula. We have seen the need for charitable food assistance increase dramatically over the past several years. Looking back on 2021, the number of times individuals were served in our service area was 883,562. In the latest 12-month period ending in April 2025, we served 1,577,081 individuals. That's a 78% increase in the number of times people have come for needs since 2021. Although the rate of increase year over year has slowed, the number of times we provide food has not decreased, and I would say we were currently operating at or near our financial capacity, as costs have also increased over 25% since 2023. The recent cancellation of some of the food programs we've heard about, the Emergency Food Assistance Program, or TFAP, resulted in a loss to our organization of over 600,000 pounds of protein and dairy products, valued at over $1.1 million. This food was previously confirmed and scheduled, as you heard, between April and for us in July of this year, and was part of our food acquisition plan. Additionally, the termination of the local food purchasing assistant grant for FY26, or LFPA 25 as we're calling it, has put even more pressure on our food acquisition plan later this year and into 2026. To adjust to the loss, we had no choice but to purchase additional food to continue our scheduled food distributions. Our food purchase spending has increased over 50%. So we're spending now around $75,000 a week buying food. Although we can use some financial reserves for this food purchase, it's not sustainable for our organization. Over the past several years, we've seen our donated food volume also reduce about 5 to 8%. This is from food producers becoming more efficient, less production or errors, retailers finding innovative ways to sell previously donated food. On the other hand, we've seen improvement and increase in Michigan, with Michigan farmers being able to provide more fresh produce and other products as a direct result of the Michigan Agricultural Surplus System. You've heard about MASS. The MASS funding through the state budget has helped us fill a portion of the gap of our food acquisition and also supports Michigan farmers. This program represents for us about 60% of the produce we distribute and is essential to help us at least maintain our current distribution needs. I volunteer at one or more food distributions every month, and I have had the opportunity to talk and get to know many of our neighbors that come for food assistance, and many will come with others with them as they have no transportation to get to these distributions. I hear stories of how one or more life events have left them with no choice but to come to a charitable food source for help. Over 40% of the households that we serve have someone working. Many earn too much to qualify for food assistance, but are still not able to consistently feed their families. Some of our most rural and some of our most challenging rural communities, we bring food for direct distributions. Our semi-trucks can hold enough food for around 600 families, but we often see more than 800 coming for help. When I interact with people who are struggling without having enough food for their families, they're not thinking or worrying about other things. They're really focused on how do we just get food to feed our family. To summarize, we're seeing a perfect storm of continued high need for food at levels never experienced in the past several decades. And I would say certainly over the last 40 years of our organization, at the same time experiencing reduction in food sources and as well as financial donations that remain roughly flat. I think now is the time for our state to stand with those in our communities that struggle with basic needs like food, and with our food banks that are, in fact, the last safety net for so many of our families. Thank you very much. Now I'll turn to Jerry.
Thank you. Colleagues, questions?
Okay.
You know, oh, I'm sorry.
As much as it seems like you've heard enough, there's still more.
We want to hear it. We want to hear it. Sorry, I just lost track.
It's all right. Those of you that know me know I can't pass up that opportunity. All right. So I'm Jerry from Gleaners in Detroit, and we serve 5 counties: Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, Livingston, and Monroe. Those 5 counties represent 82% of the households living in poverty in Michigan. So we see a lot of people a lot of the time. We work with another food bank, Forgotten Harvest. You should know them if you don't. As well as over 400 pantries, soup kitchen shelters, community centers, and others who directly serve our neighbors who come to us for help. We've been doing this for about 50 years, just shy of 50 years. So our role is a combination of both direct and indirect service. Food safety and providing a stable and reasonably predictable amount of food in spite of the craziness of the environment every year. It's not uncommon for there to be changes that everyone has to grapple with. But what people look and what our partners look to the food bank to do is keep things stable, right? People want to know what they're going to be able to get, at least so they can plan for their yearly activities. And a lot of these shelters and pantries, they're all volunteer run. So they don't have like strategic planning meetings every month where they sit down and talk about what they're going to do, right? They're doing the best they can with the people they have, and we are sort of that calm in the storm. And we like that, and we think it's important, and we think it's an important role. So once a year in June, we meet with all of our partners to talk about what to expect. And we're never 100% right. But when we make a commitment, we stick to it, and they know it, and we've been doing it long enough that they know that when they hear from us in June, they can pretty much say, this is what we're going to see at least from Gleaners, even if the whole rest of the world goes kablooey. So last year, we told them that with them, we would distribute about 50 million pounds of food to those 5 counties. In February, the canceled or paused support from the USDA meant a shortfall of 2 million of those pounds. So, which, you know, against 50 million, it might not sound that big, but it really is quite a big gap, especially over the 6 or 7 months. So the cost to overcome that with other resources would be about $1.36 million. That's just practical terms. So we do what we always do. We talk to people about money, right? We talk to our corporate and philanthropy supporters to say, is there anything you can do? And what they said was, you can't imagine how many people are coming to us right now asking for support. I mean, we wish we could, but we can't. So I think it is important to know, though, that food banks, and not just Gleaners, this is one of the things that we always do, is we try to get what support we can in spite of the changes that come to us, right? So I think it is important that we do this. We don't just come and say, please, please, please. We say, okay, what can we do? The going gets tough, the tough get going. I'm sure you've heard that before. But as a result, we couldn't raise the money, so we talked to our board and agreed that we would dip into our strategic reserve. Now, we do have a strategic reserve for a rainy day. This is definitely a rainy day. And we decided, not able to raise additional money, we would spend out of that reserve $200,000 a month so that we could make up that shortfall. And that's what we've been doing. And the numbers of people coming to us for help have been at about the level that we expected. And so that has been enough to maintain not only our commitment, but to make sure the people coming for help aren't being turned away. And we do measure that every day. So the bottom line is we can't do that forever. We don't have an unlimited amount of strategic reserve. We have to have 180 days just for an emergency, like everyone loses their power, if everyone remembers what that was like, right? We have to have a certain amount of strategic reserve. We're a first responder. We have to be able to dip on that in a time of immense crisis. On top of that, we have a little more, and that's why we could spend some money now to overcome this gap and see what will happen. I promise you, if it weren't for Mass, we would not be able to maintain. Mass has been critically important for us as we have put the pieces together to maintain our commitment to the community that we made last June and that we're about to make next week, as a matter of fact. So I just want to say thank you all for supporting that. It makes such a big difference for hundreds of thousands of families. So now we're looking at the outlook for next year. And again, we don't know exactly what that's going to be. We never do, right? We don't know how many people are going to show up for service. We never do. And we are always amazed at how resilient people are. I remember during the Great Recession, we expected to be completely overwhelmed, impossibly big numbers. And it never happened exactly the way we thought. People found a way to make things work. And I think it's really important to understand that the people we serve are very smart about how they manage their life, and they do an amazing job of juggling the things that come their way. And I never want to see us think that they are not resilient enough. At the same time, if we don't see some return of some of the resources that have been lost, and on top of that, if we see further loss of resources, it's just too much for anyone to juggle. And so we know that we won't be able to meet a huge rush in demand. It's just not possible to do it. And so we say, while we believe in the strength and resilience of our partners and of the people we serve, we also believe that food security can only happen when the systems that support it are maintained adequately. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Colleagues, questions? All right, I've got, when you were talking about the government cheese, you call it lean protein. I grew up calling it government cheese. It reminded me of my childhood and my young adulthood. And I talked about this a little bit in committee yesterday. My grandma worked her whole life. She was really poor. I don't know what her income level was compared to the federal poverty level or anything like that, but I know she was really poor. When she moved out of her house, it sold for less than the price of a car. And she moved into subsidized housing in New Baltimore. And she was the recipient of the kind of food that you're talking about. She's passed away now. She was proud to have worked and paid taxes all of her life. And yet, in her retirement, she wasn't a billionaire. And I think about the other people who I know who go to our local community center where we have a food pantry and who are proud to work and proud to pay taxes, or proud to have worked and have paid taxes, because many of them are older, and they're not billionaires either. I guess one of the things I'm wondering from you is, are your clients billionaires?
I'm guessing that's a rhetorical question? No.
I want to hear it. Because my understanding is that these cuts are being made so that billionaires can get tax cuts. And when I think about children who don't have enough food, and yesterday I talked a little bit about my dad growing up without enough food and how his cousins would try to give him their food, but also how it affected my childhood and made it a much less healthy and happy childhood, even though we, thanks to the day-old bread store, had plenty of food in our garden. But thinking about my grandma and ladies like my grandma who worked their whole life so hard and tried so hard to support their families and received that kind of subsidized food. And the farmers who also are, a lot of our farmers are struggling and they need those contracts to make ends meet, or at least they needed to know that they weren't gonna have those contracts and not just lose them abruptly. And then I think about how those cuts are being made to fund tax cuts for billionaires. And you don't need to answer this. It makes me sick. And I just wonder about how other people feel about it too. Thank you so much for coming and telling us about the real costs to Michigan families, our people, the people we all represent, from these federal cuts that are our tax dollars that are supposed to come home to feed our people, and they're just not coming back. So thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we will go to Rivka Hodgkinson, Executive Director of the Michigan Association of Conservation Districts. Thank you for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Schenk, and thank you to the rest of the committee for taking up this important topic. I'm joined today by our state conservationist at NRCS, Diane Gray. An essential part of the food delivery system
Excuse me,
is the... Yes.
Can you press the button down by the base of your microphone? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. It was a great segue into just talking about the farmers and the food delivery systems as a whole. As you all know, an essential part of the food delivery system is the people themselves and the individuals who assist them in growing the food. As Secretary Rollins has stated, the core role of the USDA is to support farmers who make this food available that we've been discussing for all this time. As many of you on this committee are aware, the 75 conservation districts in the state of Michigan are key partners to the USDA and NRCS in implementing that service to farmers. Without programmatic funding and adequate staffing, producers and farmers lose access to programs such as the Environmental Quality Incentive Program, the Conservation Stewardship Program, the Regional Conservation Partnership Program, and the Ag-Land Conservation Easement Program, better known by their initials of EQIP, CRP, RCPP, and many others. These programs ensure that farmers are able to keep farming and be successful on their farms. Conservation programs improve yield, increase soil health, and ensure long-term food production viability. Programmatic and staffing support for these farmers are particularly crucial for small farms, young farmers, and new farmers who are a vital part of an effective and efficient food system. In Michigan, there has already been a reduction in staff from 209 NRCS support people to only 173, and those numbers are helping it put over 400 millions of dollars on the ground of support programs for farmers. One individual who's a farmer himself, as well as a high-performing conservation district employee, shared the following with me when I asked for the impact of these funds on districts on the ground. He said, "I work for a conservation district that has been around for over 80 years. I've been with them for over 18 years, and I've never seen a situation this desperate in terms of employees having to cover workloads for each other in our own office and helping neighboring county offices. Just in the past couple of weeks, we had to complete 35 feasibility reviews for the new CRP sign-up. Farmers and forest landowners implementing conservation practices have had to wait for conservation practice engineering designs and are behind on implementation because of lack of qualified individuals in field offices to do the work. For example, a pest management conservation system planned for 1,030 acres in the Saginaw Bay region is delayed. The technician that would normally have been assigned to do the work under my supervision was being trained, and the work was underway when her workload suddenly increased due to NRCS staff firings in February. I was not able to take up the slack because I was also covering for the loss of an NRCS employee in our own office. This work is now back on my desk and will get completed, but not without me having to devote voluntary unpaid overtime after hours to get it done. Farmers and forest landowners should not have to delay the implementation of conservation practices on their land due to lack of staffing. The bottom line is that farmers need access to support staff to help them with applications and implementing practices on their land and to make their farms more successful, sharing the task of stewardship and our agricultural lands. I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? I guess one question I would have is, if the pest management plan is delayed, does that have real costs?
Yes. All of these programs inform farmers on how much they're going to plant, how they're going to organize their farm systems over the course of the year. And when they don't have funding, we had a lot of questions about funding at key times in that planting cycle for this year that's going to impact this growing year. And what we want to do is not have that continue to move forward and impact future growing years. When conservation districts and when USDA and NRCS aren't able to provide the service to farmers that they need, don't have the consistent funding to ensure staff are available to help those farmers, it has a compounding impact year after year.
Thank you. And then would you say that there are farmers in pretty much every county of our state and that there are NCRS support staff helping those farmers in just about every county of our state?
Yes. So there are 75 conservation districts. 53 of those are co-located with NRCS in their counties. And those 75 conservation districts do serve all 83 counties. There are a couple of counties that are co-located, such as Iron Baraga, St. Clair, and Sanilac and Blue Water Conservation District. But being able to have that operational funds and programmatic and staffing support at those offices is really essential for farmers in every county.
Thank you. All right, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Julius Buzzard from Growing Hope. Julius is the Executive Director. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Chair Shink and members of the committee. My name is Julius Buzzard, and I serve as the Executive Director at Growing Hope in Ypsilanti, Michigan. We are a food system organization that works on the intersection of food justice, urban agriculture, and youth leadership. And I'm here today to speak on behalf of a generation that's already growing the future of food and farming in Michigan. Too often when we think about and talk about agriculture and conservation, the spotlight is fixed on rural land and industry operations. I want to invite you to look closer. To vacant lots transformed into food forests, to backyard gardens blooming along on block after block, to young people and elders alike learning to feed themselves and their neighbors in spaces no bigger than a driveway. Each year at Growing Hope, we support hundreds of backyard growers through our home vegetable garden program and our vibrant community of growers, providing raised beds, soil, seedlings, and knowledge to maintain a thriving garden. These are not symbolic plots, they're working gardens that yield thousands of pounds of fresh food across our city. And what we're seeing is the return of a community food web, a kind of quiet economy that is rooted in reciprocity. Neighbors trading tomatoes for cucumbers, elders teaching seed saving to youth and families, dropping off extra collards down the street. These home gardens don't just provide calories, they build social infrastructure. They cushion the community against the shocks like inflation, policy rollbacks, and other food system disruptions. When a major food pantry in our area in Washington County lost $1.5 million in federal funding. It wasn't just nonprofits that were stepping up, it was gardeners. It was a decentralized, people-powered safety net grounded in the idea that everyone has something to offer. At Growing Hope, our youth are not just witnesses to this transformation, they're leading it. One of our young folks, just a few weeks ago, shared with me and said, I think just being outside and being connected with other people my age is really important for me. There's something so magical about going outside and seeing something that you grew and you took care of thriving. I think that really helped my mental health. Another youth continued to sharing, I love the idea of just spreading the word of how easy and simple it can be to eat with fresh fruits and vegetables. I know that it's a thing that people struggle with, especially if they haven't had access to it before. Just showing that it really is as simple as sauteing a couple vegetables or going outside and grabbing it from your yard. This is what sovereignty looks like. It's not just about land, but it's about dignity. It's about agency. And it's about young persons realizing that they can nourish themselves and their neighbors from the soil beneath their feet. But none of this happens without public investment. We need USDA funding streams to support not just mega farms, but small farms. Those plots behind our garages as school gardens and community spaces that stitch together a living ecosystem. We need conservation dollars that recognize that healing the land and healing communities are part of the same struggle. We need youth ag funding that ensures the next generation of farmers, organizers, and soil tenders can afford to stay rooted. Recently, I was speaking with a Black farmer in the community who wishes to remain anonymous, who is thinking they may need to leave the state because of a lack of investment, putting money where the words are. They had hoped after receiving a Climate Smart and Commodities grant, but after having it taken away, just as they had started their project, believing in their dream to build an approachable, diverse food community system, were led to believe that it isn't possible in Michigan. They shared with me and said, I've lived and farmed on the Huron Valley River my entire life and plan to spend the rest of my life doing the same. If someone like me is thinking about leaving, it is really, really bad sign for the future of urban agriculture in Michigan. This is one farmer's story, but I've heard this story from farmer after farmer across our state. Michigan has a unique opportunity to model what a decentralized, resilient, racially just food system looks like. A system where urban agriculture is not an afterthought, but a central strategy in our state's conservation, health, and economic vision. So we urge you to support increased state-level matching and advocacy for USDA urban ag programs, such as those that have been a part of the Office of Urban Agriculture and Innovative Production. Continued statewide investment in youth urban agriculture programs modeled on what's already working in places like Ypsilanti and Detroit. And most immediately, advocacy for full funding for the federal conservation and food system programs within our Farm Bill. Thank you for your time and for believing in investing in a vibrant food system.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions, colleagues? Thank you. I've been to Growing Hope, and I've seen the work that you've done. It's really incredible, and it's a partnership among many, many people. And I appreciate you coming today to talk about the work that you've done and also the needs that you see and the problems caused by federal funding cuts.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Next, we have Heather Anderson, Farm Manager of Green Wagon Farm, who will be joining us by Zoom.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to address you today. I'm here today to share our experience with recent changes to grants and specifically the LFPA 25 grant. We're a small certified organic farm in Ada, Michigan, just outside of Grand Rapids. We grow about 6 acres of annual vegetables. Last year, we sold just under $1 million in gross sales. We are selling our produce through the farmers markets, CSA, which stands for Community Supported Agriculture. It's a membership program where people come each week to pick up a basket of vegetables. We also sell our produce through small grocery stores, restaurants, and some food hubs. Last October, we were connected with Valley Hub, run by Kalamazoo Valley Community College. We were thrilled to find an outlet that was flexible in taking our excess produce that we couldn't move through other channels on such short notice. The food that's being distributed is to low-income families through Valley Hub's network of food pantries. They also work with other restaurants and co-ops and things. Many of these pantries are utilizing LFPA money to purchase our food. We have found that some of the pantries we supplied have not received fresh produce for their customers in over a year. After a couple of months of working together, we spoke with them more specifically about growing greens so that they could have a steady supply of fresh greens this upcoming season that we're in right now, instead of just whatever we had extra of. We had verbally committed to growing for them an estimated $250,000 to $500,000 worth of greens. We spent the winter planning for higher production. We hired extra staff, seeded more greens in the greenhouse this spring, only to find out that those funds were cut. We have spent many hours researching greens, how to wash them. We're experienced in growing, but to take it to the next level, had decided we needed to up some of our infrastructure. So did a lot of researching on greens washing lines to get a cleaner product for customers. We're speaking with sales reps, visiting farms who have these lines, talking with a company in China, finally deciding that they would fit our needs. Changes in this grant program had halted our conversation with that company and ultimately left us with an already paid for greens harvester, a wash line that we weren't able to purchase, but we're kind of planning on, and now lots of extra hours making sales calls to other companies of small and large sizes, try to move the greens that we already had in production. Each week I work extra to remind those customers to place their orders, trying to pick up new ones. And I would just much rather be selling our produce to people in need instead of through high-end restaurants. I hope that you can see the importance of the funds that this program see the importance of the funds that the program like this means to us and to other small farms. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have Julie Brunson, Executive Director of Hope Gardens, who will also be on Zoom.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, awesome.
Thank
Well,
you.
thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I am the founder and executive director of Hope Gardens. Hope stands for Helping Other People Eat, and we're located in the Kent County area. And I first want to share, I was actually a recipient of SNAP as a child, and we've also as an adult, we've had to use food stamps. My mom was a single mom. I'm the youngest of 7 here in Wyoming, Michigan. Mom worked hard. She was a waitress here in the Wyoming area, but it wasn't enough to feed our family. So mom did use food stamps. And so we are a nonprofit in like I said, in the Wyoming area. And we teach children in schools how to grow food. Actually, one of the schools that the elementary I attended is one of the schools that we do school gardening in. And that is SNAP Ed funded program. And so, you know, my mom, she would say, I wish when you were a child, you had this growing up, because it could have helped our family. It would have helped my mom. It would have helped us as children. And I know how important it is to, you know, to make America healthy, okay? And so, you know, the adage, you know, give a man a fish he eats for a day, teach a man to fish he eats for a lifetime. Well, you know, I believe you need both. You need the fish for the day, but we also need to teach. We need to empower, to teach, and to hand to the next generation, you know, this gift of growing food. You know, one benefit, obviously, of school garden education and nutrition education is the ability to grow food, to educate children where their food comes from, and that hits on so much on nutrition, mental health, and food sovereignty. So we are losing young farmers. The average age in the USDA survey was 58.1 years of age. And we need to teach our next generation. And when a child, you know, grows something, they eat it. Just today, so we're doing family gardening in Wyoming we have 13 schools in the city of Wyoming, and we actually have no-till nature-based gardening on the school grounds. We work with STEAM and STEAM and after-school programming, which I want to also say, I heard that the 21st Century Learning grant is also in the bill, and that's another whole nother topic that affects our community as well. And it does take a village, but it also we need that fish for the day to hopefully someday maybe they're the fishers. They're the ones being able to go out there and grow food and help our communities and have that dignity of like, hey, I grew this, and when they grow it, they want to try it. I do want to say that in Kent County, we have 3 SNAP Ed programs through the Michigan State University and YMCA of Grand Rapids, and Hope Gardens is bringing nutrition education, SNAP Ed, and also community change work. And we actually are getting our partner is the Michigan Fitness Foundation, which is SNAP Ed, you know, they do SNAP Ed throughout West Michigan, or throughout Michigan. But I also do want to say that the cuts that so SNAP Ed is going to be totally cut. It's like totally cut out of in that bill. But I also want to say that the farm to school for FY25 was just totally cut. And I know several organizations, including the ISD in Muskegon, who was just applying for the FY25 to bring local food into the schools, and they have a school garden program throughout Muskegon ISD. And so it is very concerning to me and our staff. We love our community. We teach 2,600 students throughout the year, and it does take a village, as I said. We have a lot of community partners, and I know it was mentioned to me at one point, oh, the philanthropists will pick this up. They won't. They don't. There's not the capacity. We try. We have the philanthropy in Kent County. We have WAGA, Amway, and we do reach into our community partners. We also have a wonderful community partner right on your board there, Roger Victory. If you can see in the back here, those students with the pumpkins, those are Roger Victory pumpkins. Those students are now in high school, by the way. This was 10 years ago, probably maybe 9 or 10 years ago. And we have such generous people. We just had Sarah's here. How many dahlia balls came in today? Dahlias. 150 from a community. We, in-kind donations, food donations, Kent Garden Club, Amway volunteer groups. It truly takes a village, but I will say, if this gets cut, it is really going to affect our community. Just 2 weeks ago, SNAP Ed, this is another part of SNAP Ed, it is community change work. It is not the big government coming in and just handing out money. It is the people in the community. I'm from this community. I live here. Our staff live here. We listen to what the community, the voice of the community, and this is what we've heard. In Wyoming, there's not a place to grow food. People aren't having access to grow. So SNAP-Ed gives us the ability, okay? It doesn't keep going forward, and it just doesn't, you throw a bunch of money at it to help us find partners like the Family Network of Wyoming, Express Employment in Wyoming, to start a brand new community garden, which was just installed like a week and a half ago by a local school. So SNAP-Ed is bigger and so important. My mom's watching this right now, okay? She would also agree. Please, reconsider and really look at the impact that this has on children and families. Just today, we were with 34 individuals at Oriole Park, children and their families like, I want to learn how to grow food, and they're learning in their school garden with their children. And that's SNAP-Ed, okay? So thank you for your time. Be more than happy if anybody has questions and wants to come visit a school garden, wants to visit a SNAP-Ed program. It's a beautiful thing. And I'm here to push to see what we can do to keep this type of thing, not just keep it, spread it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Brunson. I'm going to see if any of my colleagues have questions. No, we don't. Thank you very much for your presentation. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you.
I want to thank everybody who came and talked with us today. There being no further business, the Senate Committee on Natural Resources and Agriculture is now adjourned.